Whether you have an iPhone, a Samsung device, or any other Android device, here are some of the best mobile controllers you can buy, ranging from the inexpensive controllers that still give you a competitive advantage, to the two most expensive premium controllers you can purchase for a mobile device. I'll also have timecodes down below so you can skip around to directly compare all the different controllers, and I'll even have affiliate links in the description and pinned comment if you want to check them out for yourself. One really important detail I need to point out right at the beginning of the video is that both of these controllers use USB-C connectors. So that means they'll work with any Android device, but if you want to connect these to an iPhone, you need to have an iPhone 15 or newer. If you have an iPhone 14 or older, those use Lightning connectors and won't work with these controllers. Let's start with these capacitive triggers. Each one of these triggers controls one of these two buttons. So when you press this button, it's going to activate this capacitive pad. And when you press the back button, it's going to activate the further capacitive pad. So if you have a game that supports moving the touch controls to different parts of the screen, you can align those controls to be directly underneath those capacitive pads. You then clamp both triggers onto your phone and line the pads up with those digital controls. Then when you press those triggers, it'll be just like tapping those on-screen buttons. And this is a great way to get an inexpensive competitive advantage in your games. And in case you're wondering, you can use these controllers with a slim to medium-sized phone case on, but if you have something like an OtterBox case, you won't be able to use these. If your case is a bit too thick, one of these trigger pads might pop off, but they actually go back in really easily. There's a little hole right there, and they just press right back into place. If you own something like an Xbox or PlayStation controller, then you can get this phone mount that attaches directly to the controller. This particular mount is a Magsafe mount, which is really useful for things like Samsung's foldable phones, because if you get a Magsafe case, you can just pop it on and play on that huge screen. If you have something like a Samsung S series device and you don't have a Magsafe case for it, they do have a clamp version of this that will fit those smaller phones. But if you have a Galaxy Z Fold, then the MagSafe method is the best way to do it. And obviously, since this is MagSafe, any iPhone, even without a case, will be able to connect directly to it. And in case you're wondering, this does have a swivel mount, so you can angle your phone however you need. If you want a more advanced controller that's still relatively budget-friendly, at least compared to the last two controllers here, then the Gamesir G8 Plus is an excellent option. This is a Bluetooth-based controller, and it does open up pretty wide to even fit some small tablets. And the controls on this feel excellent. You do have Hall effect sticks here, so they are going to last longer than traditional analog sticks. This controller also has two programmable buttons on the back. And these faceplates are removable, so you can take out these buttons. And you can put these in different orientations. So if you need something different than A, B, X, Y to match whatever game you're playing, you can do that with this controller. And these just pop back in magnetically. The control sticks are also swappable. You just pull straight up and they pop right off. And you get 3 extra control sticks in the box. You get the same style top, but a taller stick. And you also get 2 standard height sticks with different style tops. This controller also has an app that allows you to fully customize the controller. You can even upgrade the firmware, change the vibration intensity. And if I go to trigger settings, you can change it from analog triggers, which have 255 levels of sensitivity, to quick triggers, which will immediately snap it to 100%, and this would be good for first-person shooters. You could also create dead zones for the joysticks as well, so if they do start drifting over time, you'll be able to fix them with these settings. The G8 Plus works right out of the box with most games, but if you have any issues, you can select a specific game and use software mapping. And this allows you to match touch controls on the screen that responds to the physical controls of the controller. The one disadvantage with this controller is that since it is a Bluetooth connection, you're going to have a bit of a higher latency. So if you want to play really competitively and have the fastest possible response time, then you're going to want to go with one of these next two controllers because these plug directly into your phone. This particular controller is the Razer Kishi V3 Pro, and it's my personal favorite controller mainly because of the ergonomics. This is an extremely comfortable controller to use for an extended period of time, and it also gets very wide, supporting devices up to about 8 inches. The joysticks on the Razer controller are TMR sticks, so they are going to be better than the Hall effect sensors that are on the Gamesir controller. But honestly, you're probably not going to notice too big of a difference unless you're playing really competitive games. This controller also has replaceable thumbsticks, so I can just pop this off and choose from one of these two options. This is again the same style, but a taller stick, and here is a smaller dome style top. And they also have little alignment markers to know how to put the sticks on. The directional pad's also very different on the Kishi V3 Pro versus the other two controllers because you can press into these diagonal areas a whole lot easier. So if you play games where these diagonal D-pad presses are really important, then the Kishi V3 Pro is going to be a better option. But if you play games where you really need to isolate the up, down, left, right directional movements, then one of these other controllers would probably be better for you. The Razer Kishi V3 Pro also comes with 3 different sized inserts to support different sized phones, and the inserts just press into place. The one thing I'm not a fan of with the USB-C controllers, generally speaking, is that if you have a Galaxy Z Fold, it's going to sit kind of offset in the controller like this. And you do get used to playing like this after a while, but it would be nice if there was a way to make it centered. Looking at the bottom of this controller, you also get a 3.5mm headphone jack and USB-C power pass-through port. And you also get more buttons, including 2 extra shoulder buttons at the top and 2 more buttons in the back as well. One more quick caveat with this controller is that it doesn't work with every game right out of the box, specifically Call of Duty Mobile. But fortunately, you can download the Razer Nexus application and press this button to get into it. And if I go to the game that doesn't support the controls, and I press the Y button, I can enable this virtual controller option, and then jump back into the game. And that'll allow me to create touchscreen controls that are mapped to the physical controls. And I can also do things like increase or decrease the joystick area. But the good news is, once you take time to set this all up, it does work incredibly well. This is also the only controller that has the best support for the vibration motors built into the controller. Because if I go to the Nexus app and I enable audio haptics, it's going to create vibration in the controllers based on the audio of the game. And it actually works pretty well. The Gamesir and this Backbone controller here do also have vibration motors, but there are very few games that actually support it. In case you're wondering, if you jump into the settings for the app and you go to the Kishi V3 Pro, then controller options, you can also change things like the trigger sensitivity, so you can go from analog to digital, just like on the Gamesir controller. You can also adjust the dead zone on the sticks, and even increase the polling rate all the way up to 2000 Hz. There's a ton more settings you can change within this application, but the really big takeaway here is that the Razer Nexus app is a whole lot more polished than the Gamesir app. A significant missing feature with the Razer controller is the lack of Bluetooth support. You can only connect your devices through this USB-C port. Although, to be fair, you can connect a USB-C 90-degree adapter like this and a USB-C extender cable and plug the other end into a tablet. Then you'll be able to use the same wired controls on any of your tablets. Oddly, the USB-C port on the bottom of this controller really only works for power pass-through. If you plug this into a tablet, you'll get all of the controls working, including joysticks, except for the triggers. For whatever reason, the triggers won't work if you plug in through this USB-C port. Maybe Razer will push a firmware update in the future that allows you to use this port, but at least for now, you can use this adapter method to use the Razer controller with tablets. And I'll leave a link to these adapters in the description and pinned comment if you're interested. The last option is the Backbone Pro controller, and I'd recommend this for anyone who needs both USB-C and Bluetooth functionality, and for people that want a premium controller that's compact for traveling. Although despite being so compact, it can still open up to support about a 7-inch device. The one caveat with being the most compact is it's also the least comfortable to hold for an extended period of time. It's not bad, but if you don't need that Bluetooth functionality, then I do recommend the Razer controller over the Backbone Pro. But the Backbone does have the benefit of being compatible with more games right out of the box, so you may never need to set up virtual controls like you do with the Razer controller. The Backbone Pro does also have that power pass-through and 3.5mm headphone jack, and this button here is a Bluetooth pairing button. And speaking of buttons, the Backbone Pro does have 3 less buttons than the Razer controller. It is missing these top buttons here. You will not find these on the Backbone controller. And you also have 5 extra buttons on the front of the Razer controller versus just 4 on the Backbone Pro. But you do still get these programmable buttons on the back. The Backbone controller also does not have replaceable sticks, and the only accessory you get is another size cradle to accommodate different sized phones and cases. Just know that these aren't the easiest things to get out. You definitely need a fingernail to get under it and pull it out, but putting them back in is really easy because they do have magnets. The Backbone controller also has its own application where you can set things like joystick dead zones, trigger dead zones, and even adjust the button assignments. But these adjustments aren't as nice as with the other applications because you can't actually see the joysticks on the screen, so you just have to adjust the percentages and hope it's good enough. To be fair though, there is a calibrate and test controller option where you can calibrate the joysticks, And this takes you through an automated calibration process in case things aren't working quite right. That said, I did notice that these sticks are a bit more stiff compared to the other controllers. Like, it's just not as smooth. It's almost like a little bit jittery as I push this around slowly. But if I move the stick faster, you don't really notice it. It's really just for those small movements. But then on something like the Kishi V3 Pro, you can move this so slow and it's smooth all the way through. There's no jitteriness to this at all. And even with the Gamesir controller, those tiny movements are definitely more smooth than the Backbone Pro. Jumping back into the controller settings, there's one more thing that's missing, and it's the ability to set quick triggers. The Backbone Pro only has those analog triggers, so you can't snap to 100% like you can on the other two controllers. But the most frustrating part with the Backbone controller is that if you want to use touch sync, which is the ability to map the controls to touch points on the screen, very similar to the Razer Kishi V3 Pro, you have to subscribe to Backbone Plus. That means you have to pay every month in order to use that feature. That's just crazy to me, especially considering this is the most expensive controller in the bunch. The main page of the app is similar to the Nexus app. You get recommendations for games and you can launch those directly from this screen. And they do have an emulator built right into the application, but that's again locked behind the subscription paywall. If I try to download that, it tells me to get Backbone Plus, which is just mind-blowing to me. There's tons of free emulators. I just don't understand why they're going to put this behind another paywall. I just don't get it. So after all that, you might be wondering why this controller is even on the list in the first place, and it really comes down to the portability and having a combination of the USB-C connector and the Bluetooth functionality. So while I think the Kishi V3 Pro is the best controller overall, even without that Bluetooth functionality, the Backbone Pro is still one of the most premium options you can get in such a small form factor. So if portability is the most important thing for you, then the Backbone Pro is hard to beat. If you guys want to get one of these for yourself, I'll have affiliate links to all of them in the description and pinned comment. And since those are affiliate links, it does really help out the channel when you guys use them. So much so that I actually couldn't afford to purchase all the products I review on this channel without you guys using those links. So I just want to say a huge thanks to everyone who's been using my links. And if you want to see more great accessories for Samsung devices, you could check out this video here. And consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss more deep dive tech reviews. That's it for this tech episode. Jesus loves you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.